Now, going back to Hamas for 1 minute, and then we got an email, again, Jen at uttradio.com, name, city, state, short question. Here, let's see. The genocidal jihadist terrorist group, this is Hamas, is but a step away from an invitation to the Oval Office. 2 events in the past week show this to be the case, and that would be first last Saturday, Paul Volcker, who serves as U.S. President Barack Obama's economic recovery advisor, and several former senior U.S. officials have written a letter to the president calling for the U.S. to recognize Hamas as one of the signatories. Brent Scowcroft, former national security advisor under George Herbert Walker Bush, explained, "I see no reason not to talk to Hamas." Bill, we've beaten this to death, but nonetheless, again, this is delusion run amok here when we've got some fairly seasoned politicians saying, "I see no reason not to talk to Hamas," and invite them into the Oval Office. I've got to calm down and go do my yoga here.
Well, Paul Volcker ought to stick to finances. What's going on here right now is a couple things. When there was a gap between the election and inauguration, the European Union became very involved in talks and also negotiations on the Israeli-Hamas conflict there in Gaza, as well as helping head up the push for international donor dollars to help rebuild Gaza. They also have continued over the last year or two to float this trial balloon about the fact that, we really should talk to these people since they control the Palestinian Authority, and we really do need to sit down and try to work something out with them. Then Tony Blair, the chief envoy for the quartet, stated, he would be in favor of talking with Hamas if, one, Hamas acknowledged Israel's right to exist, if they would put down the weapons, and stop the rockets, then he would favor talking to Hamas, which are conditions they can't meet.
Right.
And then what's interesting right now is we have 7 previous administrations, which is unprecedented, advising this administration on how they should handle the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Let's just give some of the names from these previous administrations. I mean, there's Zbigniew Brzezinski, there's Henry Kissinger, Brent Scowcroft. Just give us a few other names.
Tony Lake, Sandy Berger. We've got Dennis Ross. We have, Madeleine Albright, Condoleezza Rice to a certain extent, previous secretaries of state, previous national security advisors, and previous advisors like Dennis Ross. People have actually been involved in negotiations. Most of these people have all been committed. Even James Baker and Lee Hamilton and also Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. How could we forget him?
Well,
He won't let us
forget him. That's why we have forgotten him. But he was in the White House a week ago, and he has been so determined on seeing a solution here. But I think the principles right now have been Scowcroft and Zabriskie. They wrote a book together, and also Jimmy Carter that has been all in favor of talking with Hamas all along. But they are all advising this administration to push forward and quick and get this thing worked out. That's the influence on this administration. So far, they've been pragmatic. So far, they have had other issues they've had to deal with. At some point in time, they will probably go forward. George Mitchell's already been there twice, and Hillary Clinton was just there. So I think we'll start seeing some more activity after the Netanyahu government's put in place.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that right now. We need to take a couple of emails that have come in. Heidi, you go ahead and pick what the best ones are.
Well, a couple of them are related. Bob from New Brighton says, do you think that most Americans realize what is happening to their country, and do they intend to do something about it in the next election to preserve their country? The people hold the power of the vote in this country, but when the mainstream media is so biased and slants the truth in favor of liberalism, the people are deceived.
Now, why don't we stop there and let Bill respond to that?
Okay.
The next one plays into it?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Joan in Maple Grove. In light of the current political situation, Bible prophecy, and God's judgment on America, what are Christians going to do, or what are the Christians to do to help bring America back to God? Is it too late to be involved in the political process? So they're both along the same lines, Bill.
They're very good questions, and really, in a lot of ways, they're fairly complex answers.
And we have about 3 minutes.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah,
I know.
appreciate that. I think a couple things here is, number one, it was still a close race between Obama and McCain. Number two, I don't really see any Republican right now really being the standard bearer for the party. That's problematic. Number three, America is not happy, Democrats and Republicans. Number four, a lot of Americans are so busy just trying to make ends meet that they don't have a full comprehension of the depth of what's going on here in Washington, D.C. We try to stay up to date with that with our weekly news report, WorldNet Daily, Fox News. But the media is so far to the left that there's a lot of things that are extremely alarming to us as Christians that we would do more about if we knew about it. I think that's a big factor. The other thing is, when you really look at it, the Christians from the more moderate part of the church helped elect Barack Obama. Also, there was an article by George Barna's research group a couple of weeks ago, is between 18 and 25 year of age young adults in America, only 1% of them have a biblical worldview, and a majority of them voted for Obama.
They're probably in the emergent church.
Yeah, absolutely. And so consequently, we have to hold our leaders more accountable to our moral values. The fact Obama was elected is an indication on the moral condition of our country. So with that said, is we have to continue to pray for leadership that will follow biblical principles that we adhere to. And I know the Lord has some plans in all of this, and hopefully more and more people will come to know Christ as their Lord and Savior through these times.
Yes. Yeah. So often what Satan means for evil, God will use for good, and I think that we have to focus on the fact that hard times often do bring some people back to their senses, but much more importantly, bring some people back to God, or to God for the first time in their life, because they've run out of all other resources. Bill, I'd still want to ask you, we talked a couple of weeks ago, I want to ask you on the other side of a break about the fairness doctrine, and then I want to ask you a little bit about the eschatological passage of Ezekiel 38 and 39, and we have other issues as well that we need to get to in the last half hour. And again, if you want to send in a question, it's jan@uttradio.com. Name, city, state, short question if you have one. That's only an in-studio email address. Folks, again, some of you listening are getting just a half an hour segments or an hour segment of this program. All of our programming is posted to my website, olivetreeviews.org, by late Monday, and I hope you'll go there and check out 4 years of radio programming that is posted there. We have Understanding the Times 09 coming up October 9th, 10th. And just sign up for my free print newsletter to be kept up to date. And you can do that by calling 763-493-3010. We'll give that number again later. And that's about 5 or 6 times a year, and we summarize the news in news brief form to save you time and not take your time. Or the e-alerts. Go to the homepage of my website and sign up for those as well. And you can become a CD subscriber to this program for $30 a month, and you get 2 CDs a week. You can pass them on to others who really need to hear and understand the truth. Bill, I learned this week that Dave Hunt has hung up radio. And the radio industry is in serious trouble as we speak. Most, if they're advertiser-based stations, there's not enough ads to bring in the revenue. If they're listener-based stations, donations are down. And so, folks, I'm encouraging you to support some of your favorite Christian radio programs, whatever station you're listening on, to support those ministries that are feeding you and giving you the truth. All ministries buy radio time. We're not paid by radio stations to do this. So remember, all of us, both peripherally and financially.